I found the 15 coolest heroes in all of Star Wars, and in this video, I'm going to be ranking them all from absolute worst to absolute best. So without further ado, let's get into it. And at number 15, as the absolute worst hero in Star Wars, we have everyone's favorite Mary Sue, Rey Palpatine. Oh, and by the way, this video is sponsored by Surfshark, but more on that later. Putting Rey here was such an easy choice, and I know that it's early, but if you hate Rey too, then you really should subscribe. I mean, you found your family. As we all know, the reason that Rey is here as the worst hero in Star Wars is because of a few things. First of all, she is a total Mary Sue in every way whatsoever. I mean, let's go through it. She is incredibly skilled in everything that she tries to do, literally everything. She can use a lightsaber super well right off the bat, she can fly a ship right away and well enough to dodge and weave through a fallen Star Destroyer, which is not an easy obstacle to weave through. Oh, and who could possibly forget that she is insane with the Force right off the bat. She literally resisted Kylo Ren's mind reading and then turned the tables on him without ever having used the Force before. I mean, in literally every way that you can think of, she is the definition of a Mary Sue. She faces no obstacles, and compared to everyone else in Star Wars, she is just very hard to root for and get behind. And I know I'll get comments about this, so let me be very clear. Daisy Ridley is a good actress, and she did the best she could with what she was given. It is not her fault whatsoever that what she was given just happened to be total garbage. Anyway, with all that being said, I think that most people would agree that Rey is by far the worst hero in Star Wars. I mean, let me put it this way. Even if you do like Rey, which, hey, your opinion, good for you, you would still probably say that she is just not as good a hero as anyone else coming up on this list. I think that's a pretty good way to put it. Let's move on. Up next at number 14, we have Finn. Now look, Finn had real potential. I genuinely mean that. We've never once gotten the POV of a stormtrooper who deserted, and they had the opportunity to actually create a really interesting story. However, of course, they just had to absolutely botch it. Instead of giving his character the attention he needed to really be good, they instead opted to push him completely to the side and never really utilize him. Let me give you an example of something that they could have done to actually make it interesting. Maybe along the way, Finn could have a lot of trouble shooting stormtroopers because he knows that they are brainwashed, mindless slaves who've been conditioned since birth to serve the First Order. Instead, he does not take this into account whatsoever and just kills them left and right. Also, even aside from that, Finn really just becomes a complete background character in the last two sequels. They focus on him incredibly little, and he actually impacts the story in a very small way. So yeah, I think that Disney really missed the mark here, and they really squandered the opportunity to have an interesting, in-depth, conflicted character. Moving on to number 13, this one might be a little unpopular, so brace yourself, but I put C-3PO. Before you swarm the comments like a herd of angry cattle, hear me out. I'm not denying whatsoever that C-3PO played a big role in the story of Star Wars, if you will. On the contrary, he's one of the only characters who's in every single movie, and he's the reason that a lot of this stuff happens the way it happens. But as a character, I really just don't like him. He's whiny, he's obnoxious, the sound of his voice makes me mad, and a lot of times he just feels like a plot device whose only purpose is to move the plot of the movie forward. I don't know, like I said, that's probably a really unpopular opinion, and feel free to flame me down below in the comments, but that's just what I think. Coming up at the number 12 spot, we have the man, the myth, the legend himself, Lando Calrissian. I gotta be honest, I really like Lando. I think that as a character, he's really interesting, and his whole identity kind of intrigues me. Like, he's the ruler of Cloud City, but he also used to be a smuggler, and he knows his way around a gunfight, but he also loves his capes, and you get what I'm saying, he's kind of an oddball. The main reason that I'm putting him here at this spot is because after The Empire Strikes Back, he becomes a total background character, kind of like Finn, who's only there so you can point and say, oh look, it's Lando. Like, think about it, in Return of the Jedi, what does he really do? Okay, he's undercover in Jabba's palace, sure, but he doesn't actually do anything there. And then after that, all he does is fly the Millennium Falcon and blow up the Death Star. Yes, that is in fact very important, but come on, we all know that the only reason he's there is because there couldn't be a big space battle in the Star Wars original trilogy without the Falcon being involved in some way, and it makes the most sense for him to fly it. I will say though, in my opinion, he was really good in Solo, a Star Wars story. I think that Donald Glover was actually such a great casting choice, and that worked really well for me. Let's be honest though, his whole thing with being in love with some random droid was pretty weird. I mean, I know Disney wanted some social messaging, but bro was head over heels for a chunk of talking metal. I mean, come on, that's pretty weird. But yeah, not much more that I can say. I'm gonna leave Lando right here at the number 12 spot. Also, just a real quick disclaimer, for this video, I did not include any characters from TV shows, I only stuck to movies. Why I did that, you may ask? Well, because if I included TV shows, there would have been dozens and dozens of characters, and I wanted to keep this list kind of short, so 15 characters from the movies is what I stuck with. Alright, I'd like to take a minute to thank the sponsor of today's video, Surfshark. Surfshark is a VPN that keeps your online identity safe by encrypting all the information sent between your device and the internet. This keeps your personal data protected from big companies or cyber criminals. On top of that, Surfshark will also help keep your online data completely safe. Surfshark's clean web feature blocks ads, trackers, malware, and phishing attempts, allowing you to surf the web safely. And just as a little icing on top, Surfshark will never monitor, track, or store what you do online. Your information is literally just completely safe. Finally, one of the coolest features of Surfshark is that you can change your location to basically anywhere in the world that you want to. For example, a lot of streaming services only let you watch certain things in certain countries, but with Surfshark, that is no longer an issue. You have complete access to the virtual content libraries of the world, and you can consume basically anything you want to. And I mean that, literally anything. There's so much available to you. And I'm happy to announce that right now, there's an exclusive Surfshark Black Friday deal. Just enter promo code Jedward and get up to 6 additional months completely for free. I mean, I'm gonna be honest, this is a steal. Thanks again to Surfshark for sponsoring this video, and now let's get on to number 11, who's the one and only Poe Dameron. I genuinely like Poe Dameron a lot. I think that he is far and away one of the best characters in the sequels, and one of the only ones I could really get behind. The sequels actually do a pretty good job raising some interesting moral questions regarding him, and I thought that he was actually fairly thought-provoking. He had that one scene in the beginning of The Last Jedi when he had to really come to terms with what victory actually meant, and at what cost is something worth doing. And I just thought that it was really interesting, and one of the better moments of character growth in the sequels as a whole. All of that being said though, he did kind of get pushed to the back in The Rise of Skywalker, and there were a lot of jokes made at his expense, but overall, I do believe that he was one of the better characters in the sequel trilogy, and definitely one of the better heroes. Roaring his way in at number 10 is the Wookiee legend himself, Chewbacca. Now, I absolutely love Chewbacca, I really do. He's an absolute beast, both figuratively and literally, and he is a menace in a fight. The main reason that I had to put him not super high on this list is actually for a few reasons. First of all, he really isn't that important of a character in terms of things he actually does in the movies. His job usually consists of being pure muscle and carrying heavy things or helping fly the Millennium Falcon. That's one reason. But the second, and probably the more important, is that the heroes coming up on this list later are, in my opinion, far better and more impactful than Chewie. Just straight up. And if I put him higher, then that means that I have to put someone else lower, and that just doesn't work for me. But hey, top 10 isn't bad at all, and everyone loves this guy, so he's doing something right. Alright, coming up next at number 9 is R2-D2, and honestly, I kind of feel the same way about R2-D2 that I do about C-3PO. Like, yes, he is in fact a very valuable character who drives the plot along in many ways, but frankly, I don't understand the absolute love and adoration that so many people have for him. I mean, he is kind of cute, and it is kind of funny the way he chirps and beeps, but other than that, I don't quite understand it. Obviously, he is way better than C-3PO, and it is not close, and plus, he actually is really good at helping out the good guys, unlike C-3PO, so you gotta give him that. But yeah, I don't dislike him, and he definitely has a purpose, but R2 has always just felt kind of random to me, and I'm gonna have to leave him here at the number 9 spot. Negotiating her way into the number 8 spot, so this is how Liberty dies, with thunderous applause. That's right, it's Padme Amidala. She is an expert negotiator, and actually, speaking of negotiators, that reminds me. Hello there, everybody. My name is Jedward, and I make tons of videos about Star Wars and other franchises like it. And if you're enjoying this video so far, then do me a favor and smash that subscribe button. Thank you so much, I really appreciate it. As I was saying, Padme is genuinely a good character, and I think that she was really done well. She's just the right combination of political advocate and skilled fighter to make her interesting, and her story is really kind of tragic when you think about it. I mean, imagine it for a second. You're just a normal old Queen of Naboo, and then you decided to get into politics to fight for what you believe in. During that time, you marry a Jedi, get pregnant with twins, watch the Republic crumble into the Galactic Empire, and get choked out by her husband. Oh, and don't forget you gave birth to twins too. Kind of a crazy life for anyone to lead, even in Star Wars. But yeah, I like Padme a lot. I think she's really good. Coming in at number 7 is the one and only Qui-Gon Jinn, and this is where the list starts to get really good, like just straight up some of the best heroes in Star Wars. Honestly, for Qui-Gon, I would totally understand if I got hate for not putting him higher, and he really is a good character. But most of the reason I'm placing him here is because he's only in one movie, and he was criminally underused in that movie. So there's just not that much that he did. But the time that we did get him was awesome, and first of all, Liam Neeson played him so well. I mean, who doesn't love Liam Neeson? Come on. The character himself was really well done, and fun to watch, and definitely wise beyond his years. That guy had more common sense than the Jedi Council did. Finally, he just might be one of the most important characters in Star Wars, because he is like the only reason that Anakin Skywalker even became a Jedi in the first place. I genuinely wish that I could put him higher. Maybe I could switch him with the number 6 spot, but nah, number 6 is too good of a character to forget, and that's the one and only Princess Leia. Princess Leia is the perfect FU to all the people who say that Star Wars fans are just sexist misogynists who hate women. She's been around since the 70s, and ever since she hit the big screen, she has been loved by fans. This is actually a hero that girls can look up to. Brave, heroic, strong-willed, good in a fight, and standing up for what she knows is right. Also, she is one of the few original characters that the sequels did not absolutely destroy. Surprisingly enough, Leia is right where she should be, leading the resistance and standing up to the might of the First Order. Take notes, Han and Luke. And honestly, the way that she regards Kylo Ren, what with him being her son and all, does make sense and does work well within the plot of the sequels. There's not much more that I can say. Everyone loves Princess Leia, and she is a great hero. Alright, we are now entering the top 5, and at the number 5 spot, you know him, you love him, it's Yoda. Yoda is one of the most iconic characters in not only Star Wars, but all of cinema. And even if you haven't watched Star Wars, you know who he is, and definitely some of his quotes. Throughout the entire Star Wars saga, Yoda is just awesome. He's a great teacher, he's very wise, and man, is he good with a lightsaber. That guy can duel like nobody's business. He was also one of the only Jedi who actually had the strength to learn from the mistakes of the Jedi Order, and admit that maybe they were wrong. The reason that he's not higher is mainly because coming up are some of the greatest heroes that any of us us have ever known. Characters who have redefined the world as we know it in some way or another. And who better to kick it off with than the best smuggler in the galaxy himself, Han Solo. I truly believe that every boy on this earth wanted to be Han Solo so bad as a kid, and even now that I'm older, he still has some traits that I would still like to have more of. His unshakable confidence, his sheer charisma, his quick wit, and obviously his skill with a blaster. I mean, what's not to like about him? Han Solo also has one of the best character developments ever, period. He goes from a cocky rogue who cares about no one and nothing but himself to a self-sacrificing hero of the rebellion, who will fight for what he knows is right and he wants to dedicate himself to a cause greater than himself. He truly is a character that all of us, and I mean all of us, can learn something from. Unfortunately, we can't really look at Han Solo as a character without looking at what the sequels did to him. They 100% undid all of his growth in the original trilogy and sent him back to square one. No longer is he married to Leia or helping out the New Republic. Instead, he's a loser deadbeat dad and husband who abandoned his wife and kid and went right back to his smuggling ways. It's one of the more overlooked disappointments of the sequels, but it's still a very valid one nonetheless. Alright, we're now entering the top 3, and you probably know who's gonna be on here to some extent. At the 3rd spot, we have the legend himself, Anakin Skywalker. That is probably all I have to say, because anyone who knows anything about Star Wars knows that the Star Wars saga is literally the story of the rise, fall, and rise again of Anakin Skywalker. He is literally the main character of Star Wars, and there's a reason that his story has captivated billions over the course of 50 years. I can't really put him any higher because, to be frank, being one of the most evil men in the galaxy for like 20 years definitely takes away from his eventual act of pure heroics. But he is still a legend, and that's why he comes in right above his son Luke Skywalker, who, you guessed it, is at the number 2 best spot. Now, I know what you might be thinking. Jedward, you slippery scoundrel, you, how dare you put Luke Skywalker at anything other than the number 1 spot? And the answer, my dear viewer, has 2 parts. First of all, let me just say that yes, Luke is an incredible hero and a symbol of Star Wars as a whole. However, he gets dragged down just a little bit when you look at the sequel trilogy, and their absolute butchery of his character. He goes from being a total optimist who will never give up on anyone whatsoever no matter how bad they are, to a cranky old man who tries to kill his nephew in his sleep because of a few bad dreams. Totally bastardized. And second, even though Luke is great, he cannot beat the real hero in Star Wars, and that is the legend himself. You know him, you love him, it's the high ground Obi-Wan Kenobi. This is the definition of a good guy, someone who always does what is right and never strays away from the light side of the Force despite how many bad things happen to him. He also fights and beats so many of the villains in Star Wars. And speaking of villains, you need to watch this video right here, where I ranked every villain in Star Wars from absolute worst to absolute best. I think you'll really enjoy it, and also be sure to go check out Surfshark, link in the description, and use code JEDWARD. Thanks again to Surfshark for sponsoring this video, and thanks for watching.